All right, Isaiah chapter 28. Let's call this one Stuck with a Little. In this chapter, where he is going to seem to pronounce judgment on Israel and Judah, the first 4 verses or so, passing that judgment on Judah by saying, verse 1, the proud crown of the drunkards of Ephraim, a phrase that he will pronounce or repeat again in pronouncing judgment on them. And it's not going to seem to be exclusively because they have become drunkards, as much as it's going to seem to be because of the effect it has had on their character. Why do I say that? Well, because in verse 5, he's going to seem to shift his focus to Judah with basically a start on the bright side, where he will say, in that day, the Lord of hosts will be a crown of glory and a diadem of beauty to the remnant of his people, and a spirit of justice to him who sits in judgment, and strength to those who turn back the battle at the gate. Him specifically calling out the way in which he is going to fill them with justice in order to pronounce correct judgment, and strength insofar as they are doing the right things to turn back the enemy at the gate. However, there's a problem that he needs to resolve in Judah as well. Verse 7, as he's going to say, these also reel with wine. To what effect? Or first of all, who? Priest and prophet reel with strong drink. To what effect? To the effect that they, at the end of verse 7, reel in vision and stumble in giving judgment, much like what we seem to see in his judgment against Israel. Posing or provoking the question in verse 9, to whom will he teach knowledge, and to whom will he explain the message? Going on in verse 11 to say, for by a people, or for by people of strange lips and with a foreign tongue, the Lord will speak to this people. Ultimately, teaching them in verse 12, this is the way to rest, or this is rest. Give rest to the weary, and this is repose. But the problem will be, yet they will not hear. Ultimately, causing him to, as our title says, teach them little by little, not as a person would teach a child or someone that they were trying to bring along in a healthy way, little by little in doses they can understand. The point of him teaching them little by little in verse 13 is going to say that they may go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken, leading to verse 14, a section that's going to talk about how he is going to replace what they have fallen into with a choice cornerstone, quite possibly a foreshadowing of the Christ. Describing it this way. In verse 15, once again, the problem creating the need for the chief cornerstone is because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with Sheol we have made an agreement. When the overwhelming whip passes through, it will not come to us. For we have made lies our refuge, and in falsehood we have taken shelter. He's going to say, that's not going to stand. His cornerstone is going to be the one to reestablish the environment of justice in Judah. Verse 17 saying, and I will make justice the line and righteousness the plumb line, and hail will sweep away the refuge of lies, and waters will overwhelm the shelter, as he will go on to talk about in verse 18. Then your covenant with death will be annulled, and your agreement with Sheol will not stand. Concluding in verse 22, at least this section. Now therefore do not scoff, lest your bonds be made strong. Concluding the entire chapter in verses 23 through the end with an illustration of the fact that this all has a point. Once again, it is not simply random vengeance, as he has a job that he is trying to accomplish, and he is describing using an agricultural metaphor in verses 24 through 26. Beyond having a specific job, he has the right tool for that job in verse 27 and the right time frame in verse 28. Once again, helping them to understand that even if they don't see it now, there's a point to the process through which he is cleansing them. One of the things that most caught my attention about this chapter, quite possibly coming from verse 22, that once again says, now therefore do not scoff, lest your bonds be made strong, seeming to warn them that even though there is a hope for a genuine rest after the judgment, there is likewise a chance that they will get stuck without reaching it, which seems super similar to a warning given in the book of Hebrews, written to believers, promising them hope for a day of rest after the judgment, but also warning them that they can get stuck without reaching it. Isaiah 28 giving us yet another chapter, providing an example of things that we will see again in the Revelation, reminding us that if we are actually going to find refuge in his rest, we're going to have to let go of any refuge that we have found in lies.